The 2024 F1 title battle is over. Hello folks, and welcome to my reaction video to the 2024 United States Grand Prix, won beautifully by Ferrari's Charles Leclerc, but we'll be talking about this one for a long time for that lap 52 incident between Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, and that is the moment the title was decided, in my opinion. Max Verstappen now 57 points clear of the McLaren driver. It looks like the reigning world champion will now go on to ease to a fourth straight title, emulating Red Bull's successes with Sebastian Vettel back in the early 2010s. Let's get stuck straight into that incident. Honestly, the stewards have kind of stitched themselves up, I think, because in their decision they've said that Lando Norris overtook off track, but they have also said exactly that Max Verstappen forced him off the track. So which one is it, stewards? Because you penalised George Russell, Pierre Gasly and a few other drivers, I think Yuki Tsunoda was one of them as well, for forcing a driver off track, probably at that exact same corner when trying to overtake. I'm assuming that Gasly and Tsunoda also had their wheels behind at the apex or whatever, but with George Russell, he was ahead and he still copped the penalty. But Max Verstappen somehow has got away with it. I don't understand. How can you possibly have essentially the same thing happen but give two different decisions? Because as far as I was concerned, once Lando had made that DRS move down the straight, he was ahead. He was now the driver in control of that corner, and Verstappen has just sent it. And look, we love a late braking move, but for me, what is the point of a late braking move if both drivers go off track? What really stands out and makes Daniel Ricciardo's victory in Hungary in 2014 so spectacularly memorable was the late braking manoeuvres. But you know what? He kept it squeaky clean. No one was forced off track. Everyone lived to fight, and it was a fantastic piece of overtaking racecraft. But now we've gotten to this point where the rules seem to be so murky and no one really seems to understand them. Apparently they've been created with the driver's input. I'm sorry, but why would you have the driver? You might ask for their sort of, judgment. I say you might get some input on them, but fundamentally they're not the ones creating the rules, because they're going to create rules that they can exploit. But also it leads to complete confusion because there's no clarity in how, first of all, it actually is set up, and then how it's policed, because you've got two very similar incidents, essentially the same, and they've been penalised in different ways. McLaren have been on both sides of it this weekend. Piastri got 5 seconds in the sprint for forcing another car off track as well. And the whole thing about where your tyres are having a significant part alongside, it's boring. It's annoying. I've watched this sport for over a quarter of a century, and it frustrates the hell out of me that they have to talk like that. Anthony Davidson did a fantastic bit of analysis, and I'm just sitting there thinking, well, yeah, he's right, but that's how the rules have been written, but that's not how you go racing. That is not how you go racing. Back in the day, drivers left space because basically if they didn't, their opponents would be in the hedge and their lives would be at risk. Nowadays, the safety is much higher. You can force people off. And also these massive runoff areas, Anthony got it spot on. Take away that runoff area, put some gravel or some grass in first, and then have the tarmac bit as like your safety buffer. Because it doesn't look good when cars are driving up that far off the circuit. It was horrendous in 2021 when Verstappen and Hamilton went to a different part of Brazil, and they were basically in the Amazon. They were that far off track, and this time, they weren't in Austin. They were somewhere else in Texas. Lando and Max Verstappen. And the thing is, we want consistency of decision making, and all the while the rules are so convoluted, you're not going to get that. These rules just need simplifying. I think it needs to be race, both cars must stay on track. If you don't allow room for another car to stay on track, at least have two wheels on track. Putting your opponent on the curb so they get a worse exit is fine. That's probably smart because then you're going to get the advantage. But forcing them completely off the track, it's kind of unsportsmanlike, isn't it? It's a bit like a professional foul in football where you just take someone down to stop the counter-attack and you take the yellow card for it. So I think the rules need to be made a bit clearer. Both cars must remain on track, and then the stewards judge incidents on their merit. I think they need to maybe not be as involved. Andrea Stella, the McLaren team principal, used the word interfere, which you might argue, some argue is a bit strong. I'd probably go that way myself, but you know, they did seem to be interfering a lot, and the circuits are as guilty of this, the layout and the design of them. But the stewards can sort of look at it and go, hang on, well, we've got this whole thing that's going on. There's a common denominator here, so we need to act appropriately. And I think always just going by what the rules say doesn't always leave room for common sense. So I think we just need a little bit more common sense in the stewarding, and the fact that you get different stewards from different races doesn't mean you get the same consistency. But also we have the same stewards in the same race doing different things, and I think that just alienates newer fans, casual fans, and for long-time fans it's incredibly frustrating as well. But look, I think it ends the title fight. 57 points, 5 rounds to go, because obviously there's still 2 sprint weekends included. That's 10 points, 11 points per race weekend for Lando Norris to catch Max Verstappen. The only way he can possibly catch up that sort of gap is if Verstappen has a DNF and Lando has to win on that occasion. Anything other than that, and don't even bother. Or Verstappen has that DNF and a really sort of dodgy result where he finishes like 7th or 8th. It's a really tall order now for Lando. And yes, McLaren weren't at their best this weekend. Ferrari did that job, and I'll get on to Charles Leclerc shortly. But you know, Lando gave it everything he had, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't think Max Verstappen fought a fair fight when push came to shove. He shoved Lando off at turn 1, allowing everybody else to come through. I thought that was a bit beyond the mark. Keep your car on track, for Christ's sake. It's so frustrating to see any driver do that. And I'm going to sound like I'm anti-Max Verstappen, but do you know what? I thought his defence ahead of that incident on lap 52 was exemplary. He was superb in where he placed his car. But as soon as he was about to lose the position, he reverted to what he was doing in Austria. It was dive bombs and, you know, pushing the limits maybe a bit beyond. It reminds me of sort of Michael Schumacher. He would push the rules as far as they'd go and sometimes a bit further. And I don't enjoy that sort of racing. That's not how we go racing. That's how you end up with cars upside down eventually, because you let one get away with it, someone else does it, they get it wrong, and you've got a big problem. So yeah, I feel very, very sorry for Lando, but you know, Max was driving amazingly up to that point, and yeah, I just don't agree with cars being driven off the track. That's a big bugbear of mine. But let's talk about Charles Leclerc. Absolutely masterful performance from him. How many times have we seen him get into the lead of a race in the Ferrari because someone else has had an error? I think Silverstone 2021, obviously the Verstappen-Hamilton collision on that day left Charles Leclerc in the lead. He led much of that race, but on so many of those occasions he's not actually been able to get the job done. Today he was in a class of his own. Absolutely superb. This is the Charles Leclerc we've been looking for a long time, really. He's obviously delivered on street circuits and other places. I think Monaco this year he was dominant, and then he produced that stunning victory in Monza earlier in this season as well. And then maybe this one is the best of the lot because he qualified 4th. A little bit of fortune to get into the lead, but once he got there, my word, did he grab the opportunity. He was away and gone. I kind of thought Verstappen would have enough to catch him, but it soon became apparent that Leclerc had the legs on the Red Bull. Sainz beautifully undercut the Red Bull as well. Ferrari nailing their strategy with both drivers, not something we've often said over the last few years, but Ferrari absolutely got it spot on in Texas on Sunday afternoon. And worthy race winners, first and second for the Scuderia. And now they have a chance to win the Constructors' Championship and end their drought of a title since 2008, when they won the Constructors' Championship the same year that Lewis Hamilton won his first Drivers' Championship. McLaren still lead the way in that regard, probably still favourites, but Ferrari are hot on their heels. Red Bull seem to be getting their act back together, but Perez kind of not doing the business. It's all on Verstappen. Piastri has his hot and cold weekends. Lando, is he feeling the pressure? Still a lot of stories to be told this season. So for Charles Leclerc, brilliant performance. Ferrari, amazing. The Tifosi will be rejoicing on Monday morning. So congratulations to them. I'm going to give you my alternate driver of the day, and it's probably an easy choice. I think Charles Leclerc was named driver of the day by popular vote, but I'm going to give mine to Liam Lawson. Yeah, I think it's the obvious choice. He's thrust in at RB in place of Daniel Ricciardo. He drove really well last season, and he drives really well on debut today, starting from the back, having had a grid penalty for new engine components. Finishes P9, some really nice overtakes. He went toe-to-toe with Fernando Alonso, rubbed him up the wrong way as well in the sprint, I think, and he's made his mark, that is for sure. And if he continues on this sort of trajectory, he won't be in the RB next season, he will be in the Red Bull. And rating the race, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It had some really good moments. It's had a few moments that have left a bit of a sour taste in people's mouths, including mine. But, the Austin circuit always gives us really, really good racing. So, let me know who your alternate driver of the day is and what you would rate the race. Also, let me know what you thought of the Verstappen and Norris incident, and whether maybe both drivers should have been penalised 5 seconds. Verstappen for forcing another car off track, and Norris for overtaking off the track, because essentially both things happened. I rest my case. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching. You're the best fans. Bye for now.